You're nothing without a crew. You could say that you're the best flipper and everything else, but if you don't have somebody that can go out, take care of your stuff for you, then you're done.
Sales and marketing are so underrated. So many great products go die. So many great businesses go die because they don't have enough leads. The more that we've been in the game and the more that we talk to people, we realize like how special like attention really is.
All of my clients were my customers. And then I started going to the other agents and saying, hey, listen, I'll buy all your houses.
Welcome to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez, COO of 5 7 to 8 figure companies with Ryan Pineda. Today, I'm super excited. We are back at WealthCon. I have somebody who I really admire, Omar Alfaro, who started off as an agent, then turned into a real estate investor. Now he's just a general entrepreneur. And I think it's fun that we're going to dive into this too with the difference between what running a real estate business is like versus running an actual business or actual quotations. But cool, man. Happy to have you. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it, Javi. Thank you very much. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about kind of what got you here, right? So, you started off as an agent. What did that look like? Were you successful? And then how'd you get into investing and then so forth?
Well, I got licensed in 2002. And that was some time ago. So I've been in the business for 21 years. And in the very beginning, there was no social media. There was nothing. It was like you had to go learn how to become an agent by mentors in an office. And I'd like to call that the snake pit because back then, the primary age of a realtor, a real estate agent was 50, 60 years old.
Wow. And
I was 23. So I had to figure out ways to create income. And I was a server at my parents' restaurant. And, that's probably what helped me along the way. But in the very beginning, I just had to go out there. And I remember the broker told me like, hey, you know what you got to do? You got to call people in the phone book. And he gave me a phone book to call. And I had no idea. There was no script. There's no dialogue. I ended up like mastering that craft of writing down a script back in the day. And I knew that I didn't know how to list houses, but I know I could go show because that was pretty easy. Somebody wants to go see a house, you're going to open it up and that's it. That was when the MLS wasn't even online.
Oh man.
It was a fax that came in and we had a 3-ring binder to see how many houses were available. It was a fucking trip.
That's crazy.
It was a trip.
You're good.
Sorry. Yeah. And it was quite the journey. And I remember, the first 3-4 years, it wasn't like you getting a license now. 3-4 years, you're going to make some money. Right, because of social media and everything else. But back then, it was like it wasn't the same. But what I do remember meeting somebody and they told me to sell land. Started selling land and started flipping dirt. Started flipping paper lots
out in SoCal or what?
Yeah.
Really?
And that's in the high desert. So there was a lot of dirt, right? So what we would do is tentative track map some of these lots. We would sell the individual paper lots for $10,000, $15,000 a paper lot, right? And we would not get him to final map, but because there was one guy that was doing this at a high level, and I'm like, I want to do what he does because it's just dirt. And then that's how I started making some money. But then after that, I'm like, okay, everybody needs a place to live. So then I started focusing a little bit more on becoming a good buyer's agent. So I became a good buyer's agent in our area. I was the number one buyer's agent for like 2 or 3 years in a row, doing 60, 70 sales.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Just buy side. That's it. No listings. It was crazy. Obviously, if you want to get your time back and you want to leverage, you definitely want to become a listing agent, right? Because then you have everybody else selling your houses. So, fast forward 7, 8, 9, 10 years, that's when something really clicked. This is 7, 8 years in the business, and then it clicked.
How much were you making like during that time? Obviously, it's different in the first few years, but like on average, what were you bringing home?
40 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand.
Yeah.
I remember when I cleared 100K and that was with a few listings and a lot more buyer sides too. Yeah. But that was like 7, 8, maybe 9 years in, bro.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm making $100,000, dude. It was in our area. I was like, dude, that's a lot of money.
Well, and back then too, right? Yeah. It's good money.
This was what, 2007 before like the crash.
Yeah.
Because I went through that huge increase of value and then completely plummeted. And then after that, that's when we got an REO account.
Okay.
So that real estate owned account, the banks would give us properties to sell.
Nice.
And you couldn't give them away, Javi. You could not give a house away.
That's crazy.
$30 a square foot.
Wow.
Like we'll never see that again. If we see that again, we're gonna have a problem with our world.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So then crash happens. What do you do?
I get really good at understanding, like, hey, if I have this REO account, all these banks are giving me the houses to sell. Well, guess what? All these investors, started popping up. I wasn't an investor yet. I just wanted to sell all these, all these houses. So what I ended up doing is I would sell all of these houses to these investors, and still a listing agent, right? Sometimes I would double end them. And when we double ended them, Javi, our commission check was what? $4,000, $5,000 double end, because there were $60,000, $70,000 houses in our area. And I remember representing one person named John. And he told me, he's like, hey, listen, if you get a deal, I'll buy it from you. So I would represent him to go find a deal. Then he would fix the property up. And then he would turn around with me and sell it, right? Then I'd be a listing agent again. And I would see his profits. And this is before it was a closing statement. It was called the HUD.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, he's making $50,000 on this deal, and I'm making like $3 or $4 grand. There's something wrong here. And he was just literally putting lipstick on a pig, like that saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I did this a couple more times just to gain some capital. And after that, I was like, I'm going to be what he's doing right now. Definitely. And that was in 2009.
Okay.
And 10. I started buying houses and flipping them. And then started buying some at $30, $40 a square foot, borrowing money at 13, 14% interest with 3 points for hard money.
Yeah.
But they were lending me, 85%, 90% at the time. It's like 3 points, but what's the point? You're buying a house for $60K. It's $600, so you're paying $1,800 for borrowing that money. It worked out.
And what would you sell them for at the time?
At the time, I would have to turn around and flip them and make 40, 50K.
Nice. Okay.
Which wasn't bad.
Dude, not at all.
No. And that back then, no. And it was, but then I didn't sell a lot of my own flips because I kept them. Because it's like I put renters in them, and I was a negative cash flow hobby for probably 3 or 4 years of $100, $200 negative a year. A month, because the rents weren't as high. But I was still waiting tables to offset that number.
That's crazy. So you were still waiting tables, an agent, and you had how many doors?
About 7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, and then at what point were you? Do you still have those properties today?
I do.
Nice.
All of them.
Yeah. And are they cash flowing today or
crazy? Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so, when do you start taking real estate full time, or do you ever?
No, I did. Obviously, I was, talking to my mom, my dad, and I was like, hey, I can't be here as much. And I was bartending on the weekends. But what's crazy is that me doing that at my parents' restaurant, God rest my dad's soul, all of my clients were my customers. So I would give them my card, I would give them their bill, I would give them their margaritas, the whole thing. And I would let them know, like, hey, if you ever want to buy or sell, like, let me know. I'm a realtor. And going through that process, I was able to, make some more money, offset that negative cash flow, because I knew for a fact that, and not because I knew about this, because my customers would tell me that the quickest way to become a millionaire is through real estate, period. And these guys own storage units, and they would be paying with an American Express Black Card before it was a good
thing.
Yeah, before it was a thing. It's like, what do you mean you got a Black Card? Yeah, there's no limit. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I would buy their dinner, and I asked them questions about how can you help me? And that's literally how I got one of my first private money lenders, is by asking them and taking care of their bill. And they lent me 40 grand for one of my third or fourth investment property that I bought.
Yeah. So it's, and that's one thing that we think about a lot too, with, the reason why we put on all these wealth cons and everything. Sure, the speakers are great. Sure, it helps us, but it's the network, it's the connections, right? I meet people like you. We have people do deals together, money gets lent. It's huge. And it's just the power of community. And when you are able to concentrate all these people into one room, good things happen for sure. And obviously, you took the harder approach of
did.
but again, you took advantage of your situation. You had a lot of people coming in already. And so, you got to capitalize on those opportunities. And it sounds like you did. So you find your first private money lender. And then what happens?
We bought a house on Viento, which I still own today. And it was literally a bank-owned property that was started out at $80,000. And no one wanted to buy it. And then I finally decided to tell the bank, hey, I'm going to buy it. This is before the bank said that we could not buy the houses. Because in the very beginning, they just wanted their assets gone. So it didn't matter. But then they had a regulation that we could not buy our houses that we listed.
Oh, interesting.
So I ended up buying that one. And then I started going to the other agents and saying, hey, listen, I'll buy all your houses. And that's what we ended up doing. But that one individual helped me get that first property that I still own today. We make, I don't know, I think $1,600 a month in positive cash flow. It's paid for itself. And over the course of 11 years.
What's the value now?
400.
Nice.
It's crazy because you could never save that kind of money with the appreciation.
Yeah.
But plus all of the money that was made the last 12, and that's just one property. It was like $190,000 plus the 400K that's worth now. If I sold it, right, be a great chunk of change. But then you're going to be paying all kinds of capital gains. So we're leaving it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now, when do you really start flipping?
2013, 14, 15. I really start like understanding the game, getting a good crew. Because you're nothing without a crew. You could say that you're the best flipper and everything else, but if you don't have somebody that can go out, take care of your stuff for you, then you're done. So then I started flipping 2 or 3 properties every year. And that's literally one a quarter, right? And then we started going a little bit heavier, and then now we started averaging 20 houses, 25, 30 houses a year.
Okay.
Of flipping, yeah.
Nice. And so is that where you guys are steady at right now? Or how many houses a year are you flipping, wholesaling?
Flipping wise, yeah, it varies because back then, I think our highest was about 13 or 14, which was great because we were averaging 35, 40 grand a house. But now it's like you want to flip to increase your capital, but then you also want to buy, right, to offset those capital gains. And I didn't understand this game until later, until obviously being in the community, right? With that investment that I made in Pineda. And, it 23x'd my investment in a matter of 6 months. And that's something that like, I know my metrics. So I know for a fact that, when you do invest in yourself and you invest in coaching, you literally, you bypass that curve.
Yeah, totally. Well, it saves, again, you get to capitalize on people's mistakes, right?
For sure.
So it saves you time, money, stress, all that stuff. Because all the mistakes that somebody else made, now you can avoid those by just learning.
Absolutely,
so when people talk about, it's a big investment to get coaching, whether it's from us or anybody, I don't care. But that saves you so much money in the long run.
Big time.
So I think that's huge. So now what are you focused on today?
Well, still the same because obviously, if it's not broken, you want to make it better. You want to add more systems and processes to the equation. Understanding that, hey, every single house has a same look, to make it more efficient. And now it's like we still are providing more solutions for sellers, but we're figuring out different ways to not so much use all of our capital on all these flips because this was all my capital going out, and it was easy when it was $70,000, $80,000 houses.
Yep.
Now that it's $400,000, $500,000, $350,000, the carrying costs, all of the above, you do 7 or 8, flips. You're looking at a good chunk every single month that you have to come up with. So now it's like we're trying to be more efficient. We're raising private capital. We're giving 12% to other private investors that are going to be filling the gap. And I have the system that they can just create a check for themselves without literally doing anything.
Nice.
So that's kind of what we're focusing on now.
Okay, sweet. And then you have what other business do you have?
So right now, we have our residential real estate brokerage that we have a team, about 18 people or 18 pros. And then we have a wholesale company that we go find distressed sellers because in this game, we got to find as many distressed sellers as possible, right, to win. And then because it's still a lateral business, we now opened up an escrow company.
Nice.
And it goes hand in hand because guess what? If I'm representing you, Javi, and I'm buying your house, well, I'm going to go ahead and funnel it through the escrow company because it's necessary. It's not like, here in Vegas, it's title, right?
Yep.
But in Cali, it's escrow and title. So you have an escrow fee times 2, and you have a title fee times 2, seller and buyer side, right? So I figured out it's another lateral, it's another added, infrastructure. And that's what we're focusing on now. We're providing solutions for that avenue and, just doing the best we can.
Love it. So,
Yeah,
and then
crazy.
are you running every single business or how's the team? Okay. Tell me about that.
So I'm literally the COO, making sure that the marketing campaigns, everything's good, right? I'm not in it, but I'm just the money guy, right? Here's the money. All right, make sure that you're solid here, make sure you're solid there. On the wholesale side, on the real estate side as well. So I have a COO named Jordan, my brother. He runs the wholesale side of it, making sure our KPIs and the metrics are solid, making sure our return is good. And then I have somebody else that's on boots on the ground for the escrow company. I'm not running the day-to-day at all. Somebody else is. And it was kind of cool because he's not an employee. He was an existing business that I ended up like literally capturing or merging. And I said, listen, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to push it. I'm going to do this, but you're going to run it. And then I want a 3% or 4% override of what you bring in.
Okay.
With your people. He was cool with it because I got, the social side of it and I can push it more and I got some type of credibility. I know, just a little bit.
Yeah,
just
enough.
A little bit. Yeah.
Growing, but
yeah, exactly.
And one thing that you mentioned too, which is huge, is because you bring sales and marketing are so underrated. So many great products go die. So many great businesses go die because they don't have enough leads, and that's why people want to partner with us too.
Of course, they do.
Because they're like, dude, just all I need is sales and marketing. And that's the thing that we're the best at. And the more that we've been in the game and the more that we talk to people and, we realize like how special like attention really is.
It really is.
Yeah. And that's why everybody's getting into media. Everyone's trying to produce content. I know like even at a high level. So like Cardone, PBD, like I know Cardone's like they're filming a bunch of shows right now. Like they're doing all kinds of stuff to try to like just get more attention.
Exactly.
Right. And I know that you're building your personal brand and I know it's been a journey, but you're doing well. And
it's a journey, guys. It doesn't happen tomorrow.
But the thing that we tell a lot of our clients too is it doesn't need to be you don't need to be super viral, right? You just need to have the right eyeballs. And then even if you meet somebody face to face and then they go follow you, you have all this built-in credibility through all of your content, right? So you don't need hundreds of thousands of views and people to see it. Obviously, that's the goal. And
For sure.
It'd be nice, but it's all about the right viewer, the right person, because you never know who's gonna, convert. And last thing I'll say is like we had a guy on stage. I don't think if you're here yet, but he just started with us. He had like 3 months worth of content and, got 80,000 views, rates $200,000 of private money.
It's crazy. Yes. Yeah, I saw him.
Yeah. And I'm like, nothing against him, nothing special, but he's just putting out content. And that's, again, part of the reason why we're here too, on this channel. But, walk me through what is challenging right now. Like what keeps you up at night?
Everything. Okay. I have a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old. So that's keeping me up at night right now for sure. That and, trying to figure out the best way to move our needle forward without, creating another job for myself.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest role. And I messaged you a couple of times too, Javi, about, hey, what does your COO role look like running these companies or overseeing the people that run the companies, right? Because you have an intricate role here. And it always it's like I'm always learning about this part of it. And what keeps me up is like, okay, how can I replace myself with all these other mundane tasks? And I literally am trying my best to buy back my time, not to replace me, but to buy back my time in this category, that category. I mean, I don't want to open another freaking email if I don't need to. And I want to just be able to have somebody to say, hey, you have 13 emails that you need the attention on. That's it. All the other hundreds of emails are garbage and I don't want to go through it.
So that's the first thing you should do.
100%.
Yeah. Like I don't know if you have an assistant, but
I'm interviewing right now.
Good.
So guys, I'm interviewing.
Nice.
Executive assistant.
Yeah, because I think you said buy back your time. So that's the Dan
Martell.
Yeah. The very first thing he says is go hire an assistant.
Yep.
That should be like, and the first thing you do, because like you said, all those mundane tasks, the emails, the scheduling meetings,
Calendar.
all that crap, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not something that you should be doing or wasting your time on. So absolutely go find your executive assistant as soon as possible. I'm working on getting one, but I have a virtual one right now, and so she manages my entire inbox. So I don't touch it at all.
That's beautiful.
And so then she sends me a ping at the end of the day, like, and beginning and end of like all the things. And sometimes I still check just throughout the day, but everything's color coded, everything's like organized.
Solid.
So it's nice. So I definitely recommend that. I still manage my own schedule. I got to stop doing it. But yeah, I mean, like to answer your question, a lot of my day to day, I mean, it changes, right? For example, when we just launched Pineda Media, we didn't have a leader yet. We didn't have a COO. So that was me. I was sitting in the seat for a while, just building everything out. And then eventually though, my goal is, and I did it. I found a COO. Now she runs the day to day. Now I'm checking on the KPIs. But another more established business like Home Run Offer, Monty crushes it. So I spend maybe 2 to 3 hours a week on that business.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then if you think about how much time Ryan spends on the business, that's like 45 minutes a week, right? And it's great. And it's truly like and obviously like he came in, like for example, we cut our marketing budget going into like the slower season, Q4. Like that was his decision, right? But he made that decision because he had the data from Monty, from me, and then now we all kind of come together. But he still pulls the trigger and makes that final move, right? Same thing with with the wealthy brands. Dude, I don't do anything for these events, right? Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, bro, I am useless. But it's cool, man. Yeah. So it depends on the business and what's going on. But usually I spend time building, understanding all the processes and what needs to get done, building out the KPIs.
Right.
Once that's all built out, then I understand what to hold people accountable to. So it's a lot of leadership development now, like for myself. And then also like I invest in our leaders. A lot of our people are going, like they go through leadership training and stuff like that. Just holding them accountable to that. And then hiring, firing, recruiting was most of my day.
Hiring, firing, recruiting. So let me ask you too, Javi. So you being in this role now, let's say Javi a year ago isn't the Javi now.
No, definitely not.
Because of your ability to know that, hey, I got to go get trained to become a better leader. So, I mean, at least something in that, you have to, right? Because I know that once I get the executive, and what's crazy, I used to have one, and then I'm like, I don't need one. I'm good. I'm going to start this. And now all of a sudden it's like, I don't have enough time. Yeah. So then now I know I have to become a different person, and then a different person again to be able to manage the other companies, because it's crazy. It's like you won't be able to put all of your focus on on this one, because you're in the business versus on the business.
Exactly.
And it's such a struggle, but I mean, we're pushing through. I mean, we're trying anyways.
It's tough, man. Yeah. And the one thing that we've learned with like just running all these businesses, and it sounds like you kind of have it figured out, but you need somebody who eats, breathes, and sleeps that company.
You're right.
So that's the Monty, that's Brian. All Brian thinks about is wealthy.
That's it. Yeah.
And as it should be. Right. Then my job's to come in and, try to support where I can. I still help out with sales stuff and sales teams, because like that's what I was doing before.
Right.
But for the most part, like you still need somebody who's running that. Right. So that way, again, my job is to eat, sleep, breathe Pineda Company at the top. And then what that looks like though is just checking with all of our leaders and holding people accountable. And if Pineda Media does something really cool on sales or marketing, making sure that information gets transferred to Wealthy or the other businesses, however that looks. So it's an interesting role for sure. But yeah, man, I mean, you mentioned the growth. You have to level up every single time. And it comes back to coaching. So I'm in like COO coaching programs. I'm like stealing KPIs from other people,
of course,
and applying it to our businesses. So yeah, it's, the business is just about stealing what works and then applying it to your business. And
that's what it is. It's that you're cutting the curve by copying somebody else that's successful, and then you're implementing it with what you do.
Yep.
Like Dan Martell, I mean, the book, Buy Back Your Time, I've read it 3 times, and I'm sitting there writing notes every single time. I'm getting something new, and it's like, okay, if I don't do this, like I'm like going to remove myself from everything else and just focus on this. And literally, I'm doing everything the camcorder method right now, which is filming myself on what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then putting in a Slack, doing a Loom video on every single thing I'm doing now, so it's duplicatable, so I don't have to do it again, and I give it to the assistant, and then we end up hiring somebody else that's gonna do all of our offers and everything else.
Exactly.
In
I mean,
one
that's,
company.
that's the hardest part. It's just building out the processes. And there's so many cool tools. Like I have a tool where like it tracks every button click. So and it creates a whole and it's free. It's called scribe.io. But basically, like, so whenever I'm doing like a sales process or whatever, and like just tracking buttons, it does everything, and it creates a whole SOP from the whole thing. So
does
it's super,
it really?
Yeah, and it's free. So it's super cool. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm
how we
get that from you.
scribe.io. So that's
Okay.
something that has made our lives so much easier. Like my team uses it, or I use it, our other admins use it. So that way it's like Loom too, kind of, but like it's just easier. Instead of having to watch the video, you can just read through the document. But yeah, man. So
It's awesome.
from a leadership perspective, like how do you level up as a leader?
Well, coming to these events, I mean,
Yeah.
first and foremost, I mean, I got here, I brought my crew with me, not everybody, but they're here. And, you know, I want to be present, you know, be where your feet are. And what ends up happening, I get here and like, Brian's like, hey dude, you're going to speak on stage. I'm like, really? All right, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. But if I'm not in these kind of rooms, I don't push myself anymore, because you are a product of your environment. So if I'm not sitting here listening to other people that are doing what I make in a year, they make in a month, it's like, what rooms are you in?
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's so like huge about community, because that's something that, like, you know, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, man.
Never. Yep.
So
And that's
the
why
biggest
I
thing.
credit like the reason why we've leveled up so much. And Ryan's talked about it too. One of the biggest benefits of having the podcast is now he gets all these high level speakers to come. Now that he has the following, to
For
come
sure.
and hop in and share the podcast. And it's like an hour long training where you
It's
just
what
get
it
to like
is.
talk to people, pick each other's brain, like pull some best practices. So yeah, and that's another reason why we do the wealth cons, because like if we can, you know, get the speaker to come, they're likely down to do a podcast.
Of course.
And then so that's why we had Dan Martell, and Dan Martell's done some like free trainings for like some of the businesses we've acquired because they're in the tech space and stuff
Right.
like that. So yeah, it's again, all comes back to network, all comes back to connections and that kind of thing. So once you get the Rolly,
I got it. When did I get this? Probably about, I'd say a year ago. A year ago, and I got a good deal on it. I wasn't the watch guy.
Yeah.
The first watch literally was Panerai,
nice.
and
yeah.
I don't even wear it ever since I bought this thing.
Yeah.
And I wear this every day because I'm gonna get the use out of it. This is an investment right now. And and I get compliments, and it's cool. It's like,
Yeah.
I would have never thought that I was gonna spend, you know, a chunk of money on a watch, but it's like when you start making some more money, you're like, all right, you know, I think it's cool. I'm gonna spend some money.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's fun, you know, that, and like people notice, and
They do.
yeah, and it gets you in the door sometimes.
You know what it does, and I'm gonna tell you this too, because, you know, in different areas you want to like kind of keep up with the Joneses, right? And in our area, in the high desert, there was no Joneses to keep up with, right? So all I ended up doing, and I figure out that I attest my success or the ability for me to buy houses to this specific, you know, area. There was nothing to do. So, I mean, I remember I bought my first car that was brand new in 2018. And I already had a whole bunch of doors. And I bought a Porsche Panamera, and or I leased it anyways.
Yeah. Well, you drove it.
I drove it, exactly. And I'm like, this is cool. People, you know what? They do it backwards sometimes. They go buy the nice car with no doors. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, obviously, maybe that's going to level you up. But I think that because I had nothing else to do, I spent all my money on buying more houses.
Yep.
That, you know, I know people with Rollies and everything else, and they're not in a same position. And I'm not knocking that at all. But for me, I think it was that there was nothing to do in our place, and I had nobody else to really model. So I was like, okay, the fastest way to become a millionaire is to buy houses.
Yep.
And to be in real estate. And that's, you know, kind of what I focused on. And then when I bought the watch, I'm like, it was hard for me to even justify it.
Oh yeah.
But I did it, and I'm like, okay, yeah. Then it's crazy, because after that, you want to buy freaking everything. You want to buy
The floodgates are
Louis,
open.
yes, and you're like, you want to do everything. So, you know, it's crazy. It starts happening. But I recommend anybody that's listening, you know, to go and create some type of business, go create some type of residual, so then you can have your tenants pay for your nice things, the rents that you get from your properties, pay for everything else.
Yeah, that's great.
my advice.
And it's good advice, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to pay for your liabilities with your assets.
For sure.
And so
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Omar, what do you think, like what books or what mentors really have helped you level up over the years?
Man, there's so many. I mean, book wise, I mean, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. You know, the biggest one that I've like read lately, obviously Buy Back Your Time. Dan Martell doesn't know this, but I've been messaging him, and so if you're out there, like, hey, message me back. What do you call it? Just because it's so like crucial on what you really need to do to scale. As far as a mentor wise, I would say, you know, my dad was my biggest mentor. He was a little old school though, Javi. He would always tell me, Mijo, pay everything off. Don't leverage. Just pay everything off. Own it outright. Own it. So then if something happens, you can like sell it. It's yours. You can touch it, you know, right? I'm like, Dad, I'm still owning it anyways. I just leverage other people's money to buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember like literally increasing the amount of houses that we had or that we have. And he's like, Mijo, just be careful. Just, you know,
of course. He cares.
Just sell 2 or 3 of them and just own it all. I'm like, Dad, but then my money's not working. Like if I did not leverage, I would not be in the position I'm in right now at all.
Yeah.
Because you can only do it so much, right? And so for sure, he's my number one mentor. And the second would be probably my that client that gave me a shot. And his name is Mike. And he's like, you know, a second dad to me too. And he's helped me out. And he's a really successful gentleman. And I had a lot of conversations with him. He was the opposite of my dad. So this is
like Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Exactly, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know, you're like literally Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And my dad, old school, poor dad, but biggest heart. And he wasn't poor by any means because he was super successful in what he believed in, right? But then we have this other gentleman who leveraged and had, you know, storage complexes that were making him $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a month. And at that time, that's a lot of money. You know, that's like a couple $1 million a month now. And so that's the conversations I would have with him. And obviously, you know, throughout the career, meeting new people. I mean, seeing what Pineda's doing now, it's like, you know, I text him and we're on a, you know, texting basis and it's freaking awesome. He makes the time. You know why though? Because I've invested. Like I didn't meet him at the 50-yard line. I met him at his 80. So he didn't have to like come get me. I'm always in his face because I want to know more. And that's what most people don't understand is that if you think that Javi's going to come to you, you're wrong. If you come to Javi and you meet him further along, then he's like, okay, now you're valuing your time. I'm valuing his time. So that's what that hack that you guys can take from this is meet people further along that 50-yard line and you'll probably get more back from them if you do that.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And then similar to what you talked about too, right? And if you can't meet them, you know, you might need to go join Dan's coaching group or something and then pay to be in the room, right? Like, because that fast tracks everything. Obvious. And that's why on a small scale, you pay to be in the WealthCon room. You pay to be in like, I pay to be in other mentorships, other groups, because that's the superpower, man. Like that
it is.
Like that's literal time travel where you're just able to take somebody else's time and apply it to your business. And that's why we've grown so fast in 3 years.
And it's unbelievable from where it was to now. And it's like I remember, I mean, you weren't even in yet. You were in the audience.
I know.
And
there wasn't even an audience. Like when I joined in 2020, we were in Ryan's like office. It was his new office.
Yes.
Yeah. And there was like the round table. Now we can't even fit our MVPs in there. But yeah, it's great. But sorry, I cut you off.
No. That's, I mean, and to give you guys context, at that time, you know, I made that investment, and this is when I was telling Ryan, I was negotiating with Ryan. Not that you can do that now, sorry guys, but I was negotiating with him. He's like, dude, I need you in the group, man. You're gonna bring something, you know, to everybody. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. Here you go. Just he's like, if I pay right now, you know, hook me up. Okay, fine. And I negotiated straight up with him, and guess what? That investment, I'm telling you, 23 times, because that's where I figured out how to cost segregate. I didn't know. My tax person didn't tell me. If anything, I was telling my tax guy what to do, right? Because I created more knowledge about it. And, that's what I ended up doing. And what do you call it? That was like 18 or 19 properties that 1 year. And it saved me like 1.2 mil. And
wow.
So it was like real savings of like $400,000 or $500,000 that I did not pay the IRS.
It's huge.
So it's like it paid for itself already. So now it's just like I'm on the house's money, So then now I'm gonna reinvest, and that's what we're doing. Yeah,
love
it's
it.
Cool.
So what's like, if you want to talk about it, what would you say your biggest mistake has been throughout your career?
Damn.
And if you got multiple, you can pick one that's particularly painful.
Probably, and it's gonna sound cliche, is not not delaying my gratification longer.
I struggle with that for sure too.
Okay. And that's something that, and even though I was delaying gratification a lot, but then there's other things that's like, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm chill, I got my houses. It's hard not to become complacent when you got, a few properties, now, we're sitting decent, at a good, 8-figure portfolio. But if I would have done it a little bit longer, I think Hermosi says it, that if you delay gratification a little bit, you'll get further, right? You delay it some more, you get it even further. But if you delay it more than most, you're going to surpass everybody.
It's true.
Because of the compounding effect that it has. And that's one thing that my biggest mistake was, that plus of probably being in that other quadrant of the poor dad of doing it all myself. Okay, because if you do it all yourself, you can only get so far, right? You can only scale so far.
Yep.
But if you started, or if you understood the power of leverage, like I leveraged the houses, I should have leveraged some talent and people earlier on, and it would have been the difference in my career for sure.
Yeah, 1,000%. We actually talked about this on stage today, where if you don't, if you're a solopreneur and you're a 10 out of 10. You're crushing it. You're skilled. You're rocking it.
You can only get so far.
Yeah, and then you're not going to get as far as the guy who's maybe a 5 out of 10 on skill, but he has 5, 10 employees working for him.
Oh yeah,
yeah, dude. They're just going to have way more output, and it's just like, I don't care how good you are, you can't outwork,
people.
Team.
No, you
exactly.
can't. Together, everybody achieves more, right? Versus I alone, and that's I would say that's the biggest thing. So if you guys are going to take anything away from this, leverage more people, go hire better talent. And if you delay gratification a little bit longer, you'll set up yourself for better success down the way. For
I love
sure.
it. So like, what's one thing you would like to leave everybody, and what do you want them to know?
That's a big open question, bro.
I know, super open-ended. I leave it vague for a reason.
Yeah. Because you start thinking about stuff. Which way do I go?
Yeah.
I would say, first and foremost, you can't do it alone. Okay. And if you have some type of, income, go reinvest it and be in groups like this, in a community like this. Why? Because you're going to end up finding people that already been through everything that you're going to go through or that you're going through now. And they're going to tell you what not to do. They're going to give you the cheat code, and it's going to be up to you to like not go through it. Cause it's funny. If I'm telling someone like, don't do this to have more success, and they still want to go and fail and not listen to me, then what are you doing? Why did you even invest?
It's true.
Why did you pay me some money? Why did I pay Ryan some money to be part of a community if I didn't take the information that I received from that investment and implement it?
Yeah.
And honestly, that's just, you wasted it. If I did not take that cost segregation, and it's free, guys, right? Everybody knows about cost seg now, right? Because it got more popular, period. Nobody knew about this shit 5 years ago. Nobody, what's that? Oh, it's only for big buildings. No, you can still do it for houses, right? So if I did not implement and go find out more information about it, right? This is the knowledge I received. I would not have been able to save. And now guess what I'm doing? I'm teaching this. Hey, it's free. Here you go. This is what you should do.
Yep.
And like literally, that's one thing I want to share with all of you is if you get yourselves in better rooms, you'll have more knowledge and you'll have better conversations that are going to end up helping you succeed in your path, whatever that is. So that's what I got.
Mic drop. That was good. And then last thing, your socials, where can people find more about you?
Guys, follow me at Invest with Omar. That's where, I put all my stuff, and I have at Omar Alfaro for YouTube and then omaralfaro.com.
Love it. Cool, man. Good stuff. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
That was good.
That was good. Yeah, thank you, man.